Good morning and welcome. This is Cheche, the show where opinion counts, live on Citizen TV. I'm your host, Udwa Kamimo. Now, we may have a health crisis on our hands, but the electioneering and politicking continues. Nowhere is this more apparent than in the movement across party lines of politicians seeking homes for their ambitions. A beneficiary of this realignment is the Maendeleo Chap party of Machakos Governor Dr. Alfred Mutua. He is today's guest on Cheche. And as always, we have our regular panelists, Botagin Jao and Charles Odiambo, with us. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We'll get to the fortunes of Maendeleo Chap movement or party in a moment. But first, your thoughts, given that you're a governor, on the health situation with doctors. Do you see it as a crisis?
It is a crisis in the sense that the doctors have refused to undertake what they saw to do, and that is to save lives. You see, when you look at healthcare, healthcare is not a job, it is a service. You don't go to healthcare because you want to make money or to be paid a big salary. You decide to be a doctor, you decide to be a nurse because it is a calling, and that is what is important. You see, in many countries in the world, doctors, nurses are not allowed to go on strike, and these are the democratic countries. You cannot go on strike in Australia if you're a doctor or a nurse. You can't go on strike in the whole of the European Union, in the United States, in Canada. You are not allowed to go on strike because it is an essential service that is beyond yourself. It is not about you, it is about the patient. I agree with the doctors in terms of how they have been treated since we got independence. Yes, their remuneration does not match what they do.
I was coming to that because they must be alarmed listening to you.
And their terms of benefits. That is agreeable. I totally agree with them. Because doctors provide a very important service and they need to be treated properly. Let me give you an example. When I got into Machakos, you could smell the Machakos General Hospital from about 250 meters away. You could smell the hospital. It was dirty, it was unkempt, the maternity was bloody everywhere, and the management was very poor because everything was being done from Afya House in Nairobi. I went in and we have the cleanest public hospital in the country and the most efficient, with mothers taking hot water in maternity.
Well, I'm sure the doctors and the officers in Machakos will let us know.
Yeah, and it is true. And so you find we are able to clean and be able to organize ourselves, because the work environment of the doctors at the time was terrible. They did not have even a tea area. They did not even have their own special toilets. Even after surgery, we had to clean up. And I went through a strike.
Yes, you did last year.
Which was very good for me, because during the strike, I found out gaps where the doctors were complaining. They didn't have a meeting room. They didn't have this. They didn't have a special vehicle to take them back home in the middle of the night. You know, you get doctors who don't even have medical insurance. They are treating people, but they can't even get treatment for their family. So we understand the plight of the doctors. But
when you say we, do you mean governors or who's we?
I understand, and many of us who are 90, we understand. People in governance, we understand the plight of the doctors. What you're saying is that, yes, it is critical. But going on strike continuously, saying that unless we get our way this way, let people die. Let mothers die. Kenyans are dying every day.
Okay,
and doctors are on strike. And so, I mean, to me, there's an integrity issue, and there's a moral responsibility.
Part? The government's part?
On the doctor's part. On the doctor's part.
Fine, so let's unpack your responses, because you say that you had a strike and you learned from it. Okay, how did you get your doctors to get back to work?
We sat down and negotiated, and we agreed. And we agreed that this is how much I can do, this is what I have, and this is what I'm going to do for you, and in return this is what you're going to do for me. For example, I had a big fight with my doctors because I expect people to be efficient. I want to go to a hospital and find that the superintendent of the hospital or the one in charge is on duty. If they're not on duty, their deputy is on duty. I want to go to a hospital and find that mothers who are freezing in the wards have at least a heater that has been turned on, or blankets to cover them. Not to find mothers freezing and they go to the store and there are many blankets held there because somebody doesn't care. Somebody has not come to work because they are out there in their clinics. So I said, listen, it's a relationship here. I'm going to improve your working conditions, but I want you to serve my people.
Doctors in Machakos County on strike now?
Yeah, they're on strike. All the doctors are on strike because they work in solidarity with each other, which is how a union works. When the union says we are all on strike, we are all on strike. And that is why the heads of the union are actually now in jail, because of that collective move that they have as doctors.
There's an argument you're fronting that it is not right for doctors to sit back and watch people die.
Yes.
One of the arguments fronted by the doctors in Kenya is that even if we go to work, the working conditions will still make patients die in our hands because we are not able to get the right facilities.
But
it's not just about their pay.
Patients will die? Let me tell you, if an accident occurs, God forbid, and you rush somebody to hospital, your relatives has been hurt, they are bleeding, their intestines are pouring out, you rush them to hospital. Regardless of the working conditions, if a doctor is there, the doctor can actually take a bandage and hold the blood so they don't bleed to death. The doctor can rush them to surgery regardless of the condition. I mean, people were being treated during the Second World War.
But why should they have to do that? No, hold on.
I'm saying,
hold on, but why should they have to do that?
They don't have to do that. What I'm saying is that regardless of the prevailing conditions, a doctor at work can save lives. A doctor in a matatu where a mother is giving birth can actually save the mother and the child by being available. No.
Those are extraordinary.
Today,
hang on. Those are extraordinary circumstances you're describing. And the doctor's argument is that why must they work every day under extraordinary circumstances? They would like to make their circumstances,
they want to be able to save lives.
Yes, they want to in the best possible manner. But
lives,
we have normalized extraordinary circumstances. We have said to these people that we think that it's acceptable for you to save lives but not be able to save the lives of your own family. We have said it is acceptable for you to go to work in insecure conditions because we do not care about your own lives and your own livelihoods. And we are saying that that is normal. And that is where the doctors are arguing that that is not normal, and they refuse to work under those conditions.
I understand your argument, but you see, for me, being a doctor is a moral responsibility.
But they have moral responsibilities to their families.
Exactly, but you see, as a doctor, your responsibility begins with what you swore, and that was to save lives. The best scenario,
including your own family
including
members.
Your own family. I do agree. Because, I mean, let's look at it this way. It is ridiculous. And we're talking about
extraordinary circumstances.
Yeah. You have a daughter who goes out with their friends to the park. On the way back, and maybe they're not in Nairobi, maybe they've gone to Machakos or Kajiado or somewhere, and they're involved in a road accident, and they're rushed to the nearest hospital. You're a doctor, you're on strike, and your colleagues are on strike, and your daughter dies because you are all on strike, because it may not be a daughter, but it's also somebody else's daughter. The system that should work is what is called a go-slow, where we say we are not going to do this and this, we are only going to work on the critical cases. But if you walk out of ICU, how many people who are innocent, how many children have died who are innocent, who have nothing to do with the government, who have nothing to do with the hospitals, who have nothing to do with jails? Innocent children who just happen to have been bitten by a mosquito have died because the doctors have said, I am not going to treat you until my condition.
But what is the need of staying inside the ICU to take care of a patient and you don't have facilities and the patient dies right before you?
No, but they have patients. Let's be realistic here. Let's be realistic here. You're making it seem as if doctors are not needed just because of the facilities. Doctors have been saving lives in this country since 1963. The presence of a doctor saves lives, regardless of the conditions, and that's how it works. And if you look at the statistics of the treatment of doctors in Kenya and the conditions they work in, compared to the rest of Africa, we are in the top 10 in terms of better working conditions and pay compared to the rest of Africa. So what happens if our doctors were in Benin? If that was the case, why have many of our doctors migrated to Botswana, South Africa? Yeah, because they are large economies. They are large economies. You look, a lot of nurses have moved from African nations to go and work in Dubai. It's a basic of economy. It's about money and livelihood. That's what I'm saying. If you've decided to stay here,
better outside. You've given the example of Australia and other countries where they're denied the right to strike. But look at their working conditions.
Absolutely no reason to strike.
No, but every person has a reason to strike if they want more money, they want better conditions. I agree with the doctors about the working conditions. I agree with the doctors about.
So does that mean that you disagree with fellow governors, with the position that the Council of Governors?
No, I agree with the position of the Council of Governors, that doctors should be able to work as we negotiate, and we can. This is a process. You see, we are in the first 4 years of devolution in this country. Devolution has never been there. And so this is a startup. We have improved. We now have dialysis in many hospitals. We now have improved beds in many hospitals. We have better systems of medicines in many hospitals. We have better management of our hospitals. It is a process. We've not even finished the first term of devolution. It is a working process.
But many of the governors choose to have their friends, their relatives, their tribes as people manning hospitals, not professionals. You find a doctor who has been working for 3 years, being the boss of a hospital. The guy from another tribe who comes there is chased away. Isn't that what has been the practice?
I don't know. Give me an example.
In many places.
An example.
There are reports in the press saying...
Yeah, because I think we've had rumors.
Not
rumors. We've had, but nobody can give a specific example saying the governor of Machakos has employed their relatives who has done this. There are rumors, and it is unfortunate at times we had that people, for example, for myself, I encourage people from all over the country to work in Machakos.
You are a special
because
person.
I want professionals, and I want to improve the conditions of our people. I do believe this. As a country, we have to stop extremes. We have extremes in everything. Extremes in politics, it is either my way or no way. It is this way or this way. Extremes on schools, it is either our way or no way. Extremes in the medical health sector, it is either this way. We have to stop extremes in this country. Life is not black and white, it is grey. We have as a people to get to a sense of maturity where we can say, let us agree to disagree, but let us work together, not just for ourselves but for our people, and I think the political class has not been very good at that. And we've had issues where members of parliament increase their salaries, people do their things, where the focus is on the me. We need to move the focus from the me to the focus to the us and to the people.
Governor,
that is how we build the country. So
how would you resolve this situation, given that the people who are in court, KMA has called for downing of tools in private hospitals, so not just the public health facilities but also private health facilities. So if anyone happens to fall sick today, God forbid is in an accident today and tomorrow, they do not have any access.
I think that is that is wrong. It is immoral, and it is holding hostage. They are trying to make a political point. They are trying
but surely the politicians have been doing that to the doctors.
Together a political strength, which is wrong for doctors to do. It is wrong for doctors, regardless of all, to say we are in solidarity with these doctors to hell, if I use that term, forgive my English, if that baby dies, regardless of that. We as a people, and these are people who are going to church every day and praying to God and saying, God forgive us, we love people, and you decide because of solidarity, so-called solidarity, because you went to medical school together, you're going to let people die. Doctors are good people. They have suffered and they have worked under very difficult conditions, but I think their leaders have taken extreme positions that even some doctors do not agree with. I've got calls from doctors in Machakos who tell me, Governor, I wish I could work, but we've been told we have to be in solidarity. It pains me for people to die, but maybe this is the time for doctors, other doctors, to say, okay, enough, I don't want blood in my hands. Because doctors, as we speak right now, have blood on their hands.
The politicians don't have blood on their hands?
They do have blood on their hands.
So what should the politicians do?
But you see, we expect the doctors to be better than politicians. We expect the doctors to have a better... No, it's because they have a more... when I look at a doctor, I don't just see a person treating a patient. I see a leader. I see a person who counsels, a person you go to at the time of weakness. And majority of the time, your weakness is your health. When you are down, the doctor who does not just give you an injection, but also tells you, be strong, you're going to be okay.
Governor, could
you know what I mean?
Could it be...
So for me, I don't expect our doctors to start behaving as politicians. I don't expect all sectors to start behaving, just because politics in this country has been politics of sycophancy, politics of self, you know, does that not mean that others have to behave like the worst of us?
You have talked about the extremes that this country goes to. And so if people don't, make their boundaries clear, at what point do we stop? You've talked about the political class and the selfishness. It's not just awarding, increased salaries to themselves, but it's the rampant corruption. So when the government says there is no money to pay doctors, one thinks, but if you recovered all the money that had been stolen, there would be money. Okay, if we close the leakages, that the economists like to call it, you would have money to pay not just doctors, but all public service workers a fair and decent salary. That's not happening. And then you expect these people to be held to some sort of higher standard, to be angels.
I see
but you allow the politicians, your fellow politicians, to get off the hook with bad behavior.
No, you're not letting them get off the hook. I think you're trying to work on a philosophical argument to justify the action by the doctors. You cannot say that just because we have issues here, therefore this justifies this one. Just because the father of the family drinks all the money does not mean that the girl in the house has to become a prostitute, and you say that she's going to become a prostitute because the father has failed. The father does not bring enough bread, he goes out, he
and
drinks money.
So you're saying that doctors are prostituting themselves?
No, I'm not saying that. And so the daughter becomes a prostitute. The daughter can also get a job, as a cleaner. The daughter can get a job as somebody else. The daughter can go and beg on the streets. So just because one system has failed does not mean that the other one, that you have to go to the other extreme. That I'm saying, we don't have to be a country of extremes. But what is essential, because we have to move forward also, because doctors cannot be on strike forever. The union of the doctors, I think also,
KPMDU,
they need to be reasonable, and that is a fact. They need to come and say, okay, what is it here? And let's agree to disagree, and let's reach a middle point, and let's see how we can work throughout. Because if you start blaming the problems, if you start saying, yes, there is rampant corruption, yes, we've got these issues, yes, we've had these issues from, since the 1970s. Well, we've got rampant corruption in this country, we've got all these issues throughout the 80s and the 90s, we've got, you know what I mean?
And when does it end?
And so I'm saying,
when do those issues end?
I think we're in a good place in our country with the new constitution. We're in a good place where Kenyans now are being enlightened. What we need to do is to start getting into a program where we teach our people that leadership is not just about being the kingpin of a community. Leadership is about providing for our people. It's about changing our people's lives. It's about building something that people can actually see, where there is movement towards progress. Leadership is not going to public rallies, calling other people names, saying ni sisi na huyo ni mjinga, and people cheer at you because you come from that tribe. We need to move this conversation.
Be that as it may, you realize we are where we are now because of failed promises. How do you expect doctors to go back to negotiate again while they negotiated before and their part of the bargain was not kept?
You see, it's like a relationship. There are many failed promises in a marriage, but marriages don't just break because there is one or two failed promises. You hang on and you try to fix it. I understand the frustration of the doctors. I understand how far they have come and they have been pushed. I know they feel that it is a make or break time. But also I would urge the doctors in this country, regardless of where you are, to think of the patients. I would rather have a system where the doctors say, we are on strike, but we have decided that for 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we are going to work to serve the people, not the bloody politicians, not the bloody negotiators, but we'll be on strike the other days because we don't want our people to die.
And are you politicians thinking of the Kenyans?
And so that is how it works. It's not about politicians thinking about the Kenyans, it's about the budget. You see, for me, I would like
but you don't think about
I would
Kenyans.
I think about the Kenyans all the time. I think about my people. That's why here I'm giving options for doctors to go back and treat our people. Because
what about
people
options for the money to be found to pay them properly?
You see, the thing is, it's all about the budget. It's all about where you put the money and how it is allocated, and also maintaining what is called a wage bill.
Okay, so this
because
is what one of our viewers asked,
versus versus development.
Okay, so ask the governor to tell Kenyans how many people die when health funds are looted by government officials. So where is the moral authority to challenge that? And that comes from L in Nairobi.
Yeah, but you see, how do they quantify people dying because of money looted? You see, if you can show me and say that this money was going to go here and it went somewhere else, therefore it led this, then I can be able to make that argument. What I know is this: Kenyans have been shortchanged for very long, for many, many years. Kenyans have been shortchanged from the 1960s up to today in terms of the systems that we've had in power, regardless of who is the president or the prime minister and all that. They have all been there. We've been shortchanged. We are not where we are supposed to have been since independence. We are not there at all, and we do understand that. But I think when the preachers say we need a healing in this nation, we need a new mindset, we need a new focus on how to do things, I think it's called upon, and that's why we have Maendeleo Chap-Chap, where we're saying we can actually accelerate development to a place whereby we don't have to be sitting here discussing strikes. We'll be discussing on how to improve
the lecturers on strike also, university lecturers, public university. Nurses were on strike, now the doctors. Do you think these strikes have...
This culture of extremes.
Do you think this is taking a political overtone?
For me, and I'll say it here on record, I had a meeting in my office when I was negotiating for the doctors, my doctors to come back to work. And the KPMDU, the national officials, they sat in my office and told me, we are going to teach you and Uhuru Kenyatta a lesson. They told me that. They said, we are going to teach you and Uhuru Kenyatta a lesson. I said, what do you mean? They said, we are going to shut down this country. I said, so it looks like it's not about doctors. It looks like you've got a political move here. They said, you wait and see. And we are going to start with Machakos. And I've written that down. I've put it on black and white. It's on my Facebook page. They told me that. So it is important to realize that there must be a political angle to some of these issues, maybe because we're in an election year, maybe because they want to work for a certain group of politicians.
Did they say what lesson this is?
Yeah,
that they want to teach you and Uhuru Kenyatta?
They're going to shut down the country and make it difficult for Uhuru and ourselves to govern.
Okay,
that's how they
so let's come to the politics. Let's come to the politics of that after we take this break. This is Cheche, and we're live on Citizen TV. Today's guest is the governor of Machakos County. He's also the chairman of the Maendeleo Chap-Chap Party. That's Dr. Alfred Mutua. If you've got any questions for him, our SMS number is 22422, and on Twitter, our hashtag is Cheche.